On Thursday, we did mention that this move looked pretty good, but something felt eerie about it. So let's watch out in case we need to manage risk on Friday. And it's a good thing we were paying attention to that because we ended up seeing one of those moments. So thankfully, we were paying attention to that. Now, what are we going to get into for this video? Well, today we like to look at the bigger timeframes. We will be putting out the shorter timeframe video and updated weekly expected moves tomorrow. So make sure you're subscribed and you join us for that. But there's some big reasons here. So let's go over what we're going to go over in this video, and what chart is warning of a major top is the first thing we're going to go over. Now, there are two things I wanted to show in that section, and we'll get into those right away. What could be the reason for that said top, and what chart are people ignoring in this area? Okay, these are two things that we'll have to pay attention to because they both can overall affect the market at this point. And then at the end, we're going to just talk about, hey, is that a stock market crash or is it going to be some kind of correction? And we'll get into that towards the end of the video, but these are all some big things that we're going to try to tie together here. And hopefully you enjoy this video. Make sure to leave a like on the channel because I had to put aside some stuff. I had to wake up early to make this video. I have to take away time for my wife's birthday. And so please leave a like on this video to show your support. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Let's get into it. What was really telling us, like, hey, do we have some risk of a major top here? And that's very simple when we look at the SPY. We see this dropping down on Friday. What the heck is going on? Why could this be happening? Well, did we have a warning sign going into 2025 that we could be running into a potential major top? And why have we been talking about a major top that could be happening in the first quarter of 2025? Well, that actually was tipped off to us by the dollar back in December. Back in December, we actually noticed that the dollar did curl up on a monthly chart. So at the end of the month, we were like, ooh, we need to be very aware of a major top very soon because overall the dollar is confirming the monthly chart, which means that that is going into an uptrend. That just tells us, hey, there could be a serious rotation into cash for some reason. Now, why would that be, right? But the overall thing that we take away from the dollar is, hey, that's going to give us a hint. And then we can find out why people are going into cash later on as more charts start to verify what is going on here. So that's something to pay attention to. And notice that the dollar is still just one day, and that did turn up on Friday, closing above the 9, above the 5. If this does curl up, that would mean more people running into the dollar, which could put some downward pressure on assets like the SPY and the Qs. Okay, so we're paying attention to that. But that's the other thing, the SPY and the Qs. Why do we care about this signal right now? Well, because the SPY and the Qs, they do have the topping signals that you would like to see for a major top, whether that's a correction or a crash. We're going to get into that towards the end of the video, so make sure you like and you watch till the end. Right here, we notice that we do have the divergence on the SPY, on the RSI, on the MACD at the same time, extremely weak at this point. This could still break through, right? We're not talking about, hey, this has to be 100%. This is going down. This is going down. We've always seen those moments where it saved itself. So we're going to get more into that type of talk tomorrow during the Sunday video when we do have weekly expected moves. It's much easier to make those scenarios. But if this would cross down, which you're already seeing that confirmation from the price action, closing below the 9, closing below the 5, this could get ugly. Now, this is just because of the dollar warning. The SPY has potential divergence, but what else is hinting? Well, the Qs actually have the good topping signal as well, which is where the SPY actually goes and makes that divergence, but the Qs actually make a lower high, and you do have that at this moment. We have seen multiple rejections at these levels, and so we have to be paying attention if these things actually confirm down, which you are seeing once again. The Qs close below the 9, the Qs close below the 5, so it is a time to be a little bit worried about this market. Maybe if Monday is able to cross down, we want to treat that very seriously. These are topping signals. This is how price action behaves at a major top, and you did get the confirmation from the dollar, so it told us to be a little bit worrisome or careful, cautious going into 2025, and we're seeing that behavior continue all throughout 2025 so far. Second point we wanted to go over was what could be the overall reason for this top. Now, that's where we have to look at the 10-year yield. I mean, if you look at the 10-year yield, this actually did have reversal signals and it broke down, but we saw a decent reaction towards the end of the week. So if this daily is able to curl up, one, it is a little bit negative, but the last time we were negative, we were still able to go make a new high. So in this area, we want to pay attention a little bit to a lower high, but I would also be seriously paying attention to if we actually see this this thing take out this high and go make a new one. Because this is curling up pretty damn close to the center line, we'll be aware of a lower high, but for the time being, I would still say this has a good probability to test the high, even go make a new one for the 10-year if this does curl up on your MACD. And I do believe you have Jerome Powell talking a little bit next week. I think he might have a Congress thing or something. We'll have to see. We'll go over that a little bit more throughout the week as we are live every single morning. But I wanted you to be aware of this. Now, why would this turn up? Well, what's been the big thing that everyone's talking about? Everyone's talking about tariffs, and people are going to most likely react to tariffs and not take into consideration a tariff is like a one-time inflationary thing, right? If I increase a product due to a tariff by, say, 25%, well, then that product is going to increase by 25%. But the next year, am I piling on another tariff on top of that 25%, like a 25% on a 25%? No, I'm raising it by, say, 25%, and that can affect the price and cause some inflation there. And really, it's probably not going to increase by a full 25%, but we're going drastic here to explain it. Just notice that this is a one-time increase. This means that people are going to read into tariffs most likely incorrectly soon. Now, what that could mean is we do see a spike in the 10-year, like people think that there is going to be some sticky inflation due to, or continued, not necessarily sticky, but continued inflation due to the tariffs. That's not necessarily true. A lot of the time with tariffs, you have to understand that is going to increase the price, but if you're not increasing the tariff further, then a tariff won't be the reason that that price increases. AKA, you should see a spike in inflation. That inflation might hold at that level, but you should not see that increase past that point, which is what people are going to think is going to happen. What would increase inflation, right, to that 25% tariff, say, comes in, and then we see inflation continue to go up over time, it's because of government spending. And that is why you actually should be very happy that someone is looking into the government right now and being like, hey, what is the wasteful spending? You actually should be genuinely happy about that, because that is what's potentially going to stop inflation from continuing. But if the government decides to keep spending, keep wasting, well, then that's when you will most likely see inflation increase over time. But I just wanted to make it clear that tariff talk could be the reason that this spikes up again, and people could read into that like, oh my gosh, now we're going to see continued inflation forever and it's going to just increase, when really that will probably be an initial spike due to the tariffs negotiations and then actually subside. And that's what we are going to pay attention to. So just be aware. And people might even celebrate when they actually realize that the 10-year is turning down. So that will be interesting. But we're going to look forward into this. And we said, okay, at the beginning of this video, right, we're going over these things and we go, what could be the reason for said top? Well, I think it will be tariff talk. I think we're going to see the 10-year yield go up because of tariffs. People are going to read into it too hard, and then they're not going to realize that a tariff doesn't increase inflation for long periods of time. They increase initially, but they do not sustain increases in inflation over time. So what chart are people ignoring though? What's another problem that could be affecting markets at this point? Well, that's where we wanted to bring up the JPY USD, right? The JPY USD, very simple here. You can look into the yen carry trade if you would like, but we're just paying attention to the signals, and we say, hey, the JPY USD, when this thing crosses up, when the JPY gets some strength behind it compared to the dollar, we're just like, okay, we see that spike up. Awesome. We see that cross up on the MACD, and then that sees a big move. Well, now we have carved out a higher low if we're able to confirm this up, and you're already getting confirmation from the said price action. You're already getting confirmation from the signal line with the RSI. And me, I would just really like when that RSI gets above the center line. So there you go. It's above that center line. So you do have two forms of confirmation here that this is going to be some kind of potential higher low at this point. And what happened the last time that we curled up on the MACD when we didn't have a higher low, right? When we were at a low, making little divergences and things like that. What happened right here? Well, if you mark this point, that's July 15th, Monday, July 15th, July 2024. If we go over to the SPY, we put it on a weekly chart and we go find July 15th, 2024, we will find that that's this red candle right here. So as we see, it matches up very, very well. Now, this won't match up all the time. Usually you will need the JPY to spike heavily for this to increase, but this could be that yen carry trade, a second form of that unfolding here as the JPY does gain strength. So this is something that no one is paying attention to right now. Literally, literally no one. Everyone's talking about tariffs. Everyone's talking about tariffs. And most likely tariffs will be blamed for this if this causes some kind of crash. But the JPY will add pressure onto the market. And if you mix these two things together, it means we could have a crash or correction right now. So let's talk about which one we think is coming forward throughout the next few weeks. So how do I like to treat signals like this? When it's very uncertain, we're seeing 10-year yields that could cross up. We're seeing that signal from the dollar saying some kind of major top, maybe for how do we decide, like, is this going to be a correction or is this going to be a crash? And this is something very good to hear, because this is something that I just do myself. If this is going to be a potential major top signal, I won't know if this is a correction or a crash. Most likely I will have to depend a lot on the price action to see if there is a correction or a crash. If it's a crash, you are going to go down very dramatically. If it's a correction, well, then we might see those bumps in the road. And the best part about those bumps in the road is you can make divergences that give you a hint of, hey, if this is a crash, then why are we seeing buyers actually weaken the selling here? Why are there buyers trying to step in? This is where it's very important to pay attention to your signals. Follow your signals. Trust your charts. Because if you're making 2-hour divergence that look very clean and they're on the MACD and the RSI at the same time, it is very unlikely that you are going to continue to crash, at least during that point. If we see some kind of massive drop, right? You see some kind of massive drop and then you make divergence and you get a bounce, we'll be paying attention to lower highs. We're going to depend a lot on the price action, which is exactly what a trader should do in order to decide if this is a correction or a crash. What do I like to do? I like to say, hey, if I'm leaning towards crash, I'm still going to treat it like a correction. Even if I'm leaning in that direction, I'm going to be open to it being a correction. That way, if I see a reversal signal that goes against me, I won't necessarily be overly bearish. I won't be piling on those bearish bets, and I can take into consideration maybe other charts that I'm looking at, like the dollar or the 10-year, and see if those have reversal signals at the same time, and that will really help me out. So do I think this will be a correction or a crash? Right now, I'm kind of leaning towards a corrective move or some kind of quick move down that actually turns back up, and then we see that topping process start again in March. I'm really leaning towards that one at this point, but I'm aware that the signals are here, so I'm treating this very seriously. I was able to open some positions short in these areas. We have stocks that are actually a lot of stocks that are lower, so they are vulnerable if they do drop to lower prices to seeing bigger drops. And then at the same time, we can notice that, okay, we have stocks like Meta and other things that are overall keeping the market in a good state, right? If Meta was going down, that would be very troublesome. And you see other stocks like that as well, like Amazon, and Amazon just gave that up last week. So there are some warning signs out there. I think you need to be aware of them, not only the tariff ones, but also the fact that the JPY USD, the JPY is turning up on the weekly scale. And the last time that we went through that, we saw a pretty much corrective move for the SPY for, I guess, how much? I mean, if we really want to go over it real quick and we want to see if that was a corrective move, well, we can see that we were down almost 10%, right? So almost 10%. If I actually, manage to find the low here, about 9.7% there at the low. So that is a big deal. And in 4 weeks, I think it was, we actually saw that 10% down. So we need to be paying attention at this moment because we do have some warning signs going into next week. And then we need to watch our signals throughout the week. And that's why we go live every single morning so that we can talk about signals, talk about if there's going to be bounces, talk about if we're hitting weekly expected moves, and trying to help us find some direction for the market during the week. And just so you're aware, we have other warning signs too. You have the housing market, the housing sector absolutely throwing up here. You have HYG that was turning down. It never made the new high. We pointed these things out as well. We had XLU not really making a complete new high, just starting to turn down. So we had a lot of warning signs, and we had volatility that still looked like it could cross up on the 2-hour chart, and we were going down towards my 1504 level. So I really like that level. We actually filled this gap and then just turned right back around is how I see it at this point. So we will be aware that if this is crossing up, if the SPY is crossing down, if the Qs are crossing down, if the JPY is scaling up, if the 10-year yield is scaling up, things can pile up pretty quick, and we actually could see some kind of major top for a correction or crash right now. And I think that's the overall main takeaway. Now, from this, I know a lot of people want to get super bearish and be like, okay, now I'm going to take short, you take short. It's always dependent on the price action, right? So we will be paying attention to the price action this week and see if these opportunities show them their face, because weirdly enough, even though we have these signals on what was it? On Friday, we actually saw some potential reversal signals where the 30-minute could catch a bounce here. So make sure you're tuning into Sunday's video because we might give you some daily expected moves where that 30-minute could bounce to. And if we reject from those levels, we might be turning down with Jerome Powell because I believe he talks on Tuesday. So just keep an eye out, keep an eye on these signals. There are some warning signs going into next week, and I thought it was important enough to make a whole video about it, even during my wife's birthday, which I'm sure she's not happy about. But thank you guys so much for watching this video. Thank you for liking and subscribing. I know, once again, this is a kind of different Saturday video for us, but normally we'll be just going over the bigger timeframes and looking at multiple charts. But for this one, I really just wanted to point out the things that I think are going to cause some turbulence. Most likely will be the tariff talk leading to the 10-year yield actually increasing. And then the other thing that people aren't paying attention to is the JPY. And why are we paying attention to these things? Well, because the dollar gave us that topping signal, and the SPY and the Qs are giving us the topping signals as well. So it is a time to be rather cautious, but that doesn't mean we're going to immediately take big bearish plays or anything like that. We still have to see things proven in the price action, and that's what we're going to go over with you throughout this week on this channel on YouTube at night, and we're going to go through it during the live show. So thank you so much for watching. I hope you guys have a great weekend, and peace out.